Hi everyone, this is Laura with Tri-Valley Paper Crafters. Today I'm going to show you how to create your own background paper, and then we will turn that into 3 cute little cards. So let's get started. Let me tell you what you're going to need. So you can pause this and pull everything together if you like. You will need a 6x6 piece of white daisy cardstock, as well as a 1 3/4 by 5 1/4 strip of white daisy. You will need a 3x6 piece of Lagoon cardstock, and I'll go over the cutting for these later. And you will also need 3 card bases and envelopes. What I'm using today is from the new Skylark collection. It's a special, so if you're interested, you need to grab this quickly because it won't be around for very much longer. This is the stamp set, and we will be using many of the stamps on here. And then what my favorite thing is this stencil. It's 12 by 12, so it's great to use on scrapbook pages, and I already have. You can see it's stained. I did some backgrounds over my 12 by 12 sheets, and they just turned out lovely. We're only going to use part of this today, and it doesn't matter that you can see mine is stained. It doesn't matter. After you use it, you just rinse it with warm water and blot it dry, and it's good to go. So the first thing we're going to do is you can tack down your 6x6 piece of paper if you like over scratch paper or a Versamat, whatever you have. I like using my Versamat because I can measure things as I go. I didn't tack this down because I think it's going to stick pretty well. However, I'm going to put this stencil down, and I'm going to use mint tape to kind of hold that in place. I'm going to have my hand over it as well, so not a big deal. The inks we'll use today are Limeade, Toffee, and Lagoon. So we're going to start with the lightest color, which is Limeade. And I've got blending brushes here, and I have mine for every color. It is possible to use them and then wash them out and use them on a different color, but you need to be really, really careful that they are 100% dry, because if there's any water left in them, they will smear and blot your ink, and you don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to load up some Limeade ink on this, and on the stencil, I just very lightly want to cover the leaves. I don't want to go really heavy and get really, really dark leaves. It's better to do very light strokes and then just add ink as necessary instead of ending up with a really dark, blotchy look. So I am just doing the leaves and the stems, and you'll see why, very lightly. And if you happen to go over the flowers a little bit, that's not a huge deal, but I'm trying not to do that, because this background paper is going to be multi-directional, and we're going to cut it up in pieces. So it really doesn't matter that much. Kind of an imperfect science. And it's easy. This is so easy. What you could do is a full 12 by 12 sheet to do lots and lots of cards, but for the ease of demonstration, I just chose to do a 6x6 so we can do 3 cards, so you just get the idea, and it doesn't take me so long to color. Almost there. Okay, so I've about got the leaves colored as much as I want. Yep, that looks good. So I'll put that one aside, and then I want to get out the Lagoon ink. And this time I'm going to color the flowers. Lagoon is much, much darker, so I'm going to try and put this ink on very lightly. And you can see I got some Limeade in there. It doesn't matter. It's all gonna work. And you can do this with any color you like. I tend to like the lighter colors a little bit better because it blends. It's not as stark a look if you did, let's say, royal, or royal is a really dark purple. Love purples, but for this I want everything to be a little bit muted. Almost there. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I always put the lids back on my ink because inevitably I stick something in it that I don't want to, and then I have a big mess on my hands. Okay, so now I'm going to lift off the stencil, and you've got the 6x6 piece. What I'm going to do now is turn over my Versamat so the foam side is up, because you always want to stamp on foam, and I never believed that or really understood why until one day I was trying to stamp something and I could not get a clear impression, and it was making me crazy. So what the foam does is it pushes the paper up into the stamp, into the nooks and crannies, and you get a really crisp impression. And so I've been doing that ever since. So I'm going to put a piece of scratch paper under this just so I don't get ink all over my Versamat. So now I'm going to get out the Skylark stamps. And the ones I want to use are, I want the sentiment stamp, the dragonfly, and the little heart. So let me grab some blocks that go with those. All right. Now, if you haven't used Close to My Heart blocks, and I'm guessing most of you have, there's an etched line in this so you can line things up. It's on all the blocks. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there. So if you do have sentiment stamps, you can get them on your block straight. That's good. These other ones don't matter if they're straight or not. So I'm going to use toffee ink, and I'm going to load up my stamp. And some of this is going off the page, so that was another reason why I wanted scratch paper under this. And I'm going to randomly stamp this, trying to keep it fairly straight. Straight-ish. Straight-ish is good. I'm going to turn it and go this direction, also trying to keep it a little bit straight. And I'll get the other side over here. Okay, that's it for that one. Now I'm going to use the dragonfly stamp and randomly stamp this different directions over what I've already done. And some off the page as well. Okay, Now this heart, this one is a more solid stamp. It's a heart with some swirls in it, and because it's more solid, it will appear a little bit darker, and that's okay. So I'm just going to eyeball this and look for white space and stamp the heart different directions over those white spaces. There might be more white space here, but I think I'm good with this. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so just when you thought we are done stamping, but now what I'm going to do is just smash this sponge into the ink pad, and what you want to do is just push it down and straight back up. You don't want to smear or drag it or you'll get lines, and you don't want that. What I'm trying to do is give this a vintage or antique look and cover up any of the bright white that is showing through. I want it to have more of a muted effect. And there we go. That is it. So now this is your background paper. So what we're going to do now is bring in a cutter, and this is a 6x6 piece, and we want a 5.5 by 2. Well, let's get the 5.5. We'll cut that off. That's garbage. And then turn it the other way, and you're going to cut 3 2-inch strips. Okay, and we'll be using that for the cards. Now on the Lagoon, we want 4 1/4-inch strips. And this is a 3x6 piece of paper. Cut your strips first, and then you're going to trim the ends of those. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and that leaves this 2-inch piece, 2x6, and you want 3 pieces that are 2x2. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then these strips, you want to cut those to 5.5. If you didn't want to cut them right now, you can glue them onto your card later and then trim the ends off, but I just want to get it done, so I'm here, might as well. Last one, 5.5. Okay, and then on the white piece of paper, this one was 5 1/4 by 1 3/4. I want 3 pieces that are 1 3/4. So there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, that is all the cutting we're going to do. I can get rid of this. So let's do our stamping next. So you can pick any color you want to stamp in. I'm going to use Lagoon, and I just grabbed 3 sentiment stamps out of my stash. You can use anything you want. You can make all your cards the same. You're going to have all the pieces. You can make them all the same if you want. So this one just says make a wish. This one says thinking of you. And then the last one, I want to do one that is a diamond orientation versus just a regular square. So I'm going to try and center this. Okay, and then we can set that aside. We are done stamping. So to assemble, grab one of your card bases. And these are pre-scored, and I always fold it so the mountain side is on the inside. So let's take one of these pieces, put your adhesive on it. I love this adhesive. It is very, very permanent. It's not very forgiving, but it does not fall apart. I will tell you that I have received cards from other people that by the time it gets to me, I have the pieces of the card in the envelope because it's either too hot or too cold and everything falls apart in transit, which is unfortunate because people put a lot of work into these. Okay, so now I'm going to put this strip. Actually, I need to turn this over or use my piece of scratch paper so I don't get adhesive all over everything. And I'm just going to put that flush against the pattern paper and take another one. And then this one, it's also going to go flush to the fold, but it's actually going to be a landscape card. And then also put one of the lagoon strips flush to the pattern paper. Now this paper, Close to My Heart paper, has a dark and a light side, and I thought the light actually looked better with this pale pattern, so you can do whatever you like. I just went with the light. And then on the last card, I'm going to put the pattern paper right across the center, and I just eyeball it. You can use this grid paper to figure out exactly where the center is, but I'm just going to eyeball it. And then I want the skinny strips above and below that patterned paper. One more. Okay, so our card bases are done. So what we're going to do now is just mat these sentiments on top the solid cardstock. And what I do is I look at the opposite corners, and if they are spaced evenly, then you've got it directly in the center. I say that and watch me get them all crooked. It should work. Okay, this is the one I want to be a diamond. Okay, so the diamond one, I'm going to pop all these sentiments up with 3D foam tape. And again, I'm just going to eyeball this. Okay. Also put 3D foam tape on these. Doesn't take a lot. Doesn't have to withstand nuclear holocaust. You're just going to mail it. And I'm going to put this down about, so the bottom's about halfway, so maybe 1/3 to 2/3 difference here, and then centered. And then this last one, I'm going to do this way. And I don't want it dead center, so I'm going to put it more towards the left side, and again, split the difference about 1/3 and 2/3. Okay, so how fast did that come together? Now, if these are I don't want to say too simple, but if they're too plain for you, there's so much you can do with them. You can add little embellishments, whether it's sparkly gems or acrylic dots or what have you. You know, you can dress them up a bit. This one, I put glitter paper, Lagoon glitter paper on both sides. And I also used a little dauber, I have these for every color as well, to go around the edge just to give it a little bit more dimension there. Or you can take a pen and you can draw, you can doodle an outline just on the card base only. You can draw stitches, you can do pretty much anything you want. If you've got little die cuts, leaves, flowers, you can tuck those underneath. There's a lot you can do with them. Another thing that I didn't show you is when you make your paper, if you want to use that stencil and mask off the back of the envelope and just leave the flap showing, you can also stencil this pattern onto the envelope flap, and that's really nice as well. So I hope you learned something. Hope you like this. Let me know what you think, and when you make something, share it. Let's see what you did. Thank you.